Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor. As you're aware, I've spent the last decade talking about the importance of these things called chronotypes. Knowing your chronotype can actually tell you a ton about when to get your best sleep, when you tend to be most productive throughout the day, even when you should drink coffee. But it's not just limited to adults. Interestingly, kids have different chronotypes and circadian rhythms as well, and most of it is based on their age. In fact, most kids go through all the chronotypes. So knowing your child's chronotype can actually be a really important aspect to arranging their daily schedule, but also just interacting and getting along with them. Let's go from top to bottom, right? So lions, who represent those early birds, right? Those are kind of like infants, right? Think about your itty bitty babies. They go to bed early and they wake up early. So their genetics have told them that it's important to get longer bouts of sleep at particular periods of time. So a lot like a lion would be. Next are toddlers and kindergartners. Now, some of them kind of keep to their lionish behavior, waking up early, but a lot of them move into what I call a bear's life of having a little bit later schedule. So going to bed a little bit later and waking up a little bit later. Still, toddlers and kindergartners need roughly the same amount of sleep as infants do, maybe just a itty bitty teeny tiny bit less, but not by a whole lot. Once you get past like that kindergartner stage, then you get to grade schoolers. Grade schoolers are almost always in that bear category. So what does that mean? They like to get up around 7. They like to go to bed around 7, things like that for kids. Once you move past middle school, you hit the teenage years. And if you were ever a teenager, which I'm guessing that you probably were, you may remember that you really like to stay up late and sleep late. This is very, very common. And it's frustrating as heck for parents, but it's kind of not their fault. Their biology actually pushes them to want to stay up later and sleep later. So when you're dealing with a child, there's a lot of different aspects that are going on, but talking to your children, or that communication, I believe is the most critical aspect to the relationship. But if you don't know what chronotype your kids are experiencing, you may hit them at the wrong time. They might be distracted. They might not be focusing, things of that nature. So let's break this down. There are 2 specific rhythms that you need to know in order to have a successful interaction with your kids. Number 1 is called the distraction rhythm. So based on the age of the child, kids are actually most open to conversation when they are distracted, but with low energy. What does that mean? So in the car seat, right? So maybe it's 2:00 in the afternoon. They've got a little bit low energy. They're distracted. Now you can have a very interesting conversation with your child because they're not full of energy and going and doing something else. And they're not so engaged in something that you can't pull them over to your conversation. The second thing that I like to talk about, another rhythm, is called the parental patience rhythm. So this may seem pretty obvious, but talking when your cortisol levels are lower and serotonin is high, so maybe later in the day or after having carbs or exercise, if oxytocin is flowing, that can also be another time. So know what your mood is like. So you're not just worried about your child and what chronotype they're in or how distracted they are, but where are you? Where are you in terms of wanting to have this interaction? That can become very important. So let's break it down by age. So when we're talking about kids ages 1 to about 6, you want to talk to them immediately after lunch when they have a drop in their blood sugar, what we call the post-prenatal dip, and you get about 30 minutes of slowing down but not shutting down. That's a perfect time for an age 1 to 6 kid to have an important conversation. Ages 7 to 12, usually it's actually after school, somewhere between 3 and 5 p.m. That's where you're going to have a mood boost. If they have a bad day at school, switch it to them, not necessarily your topic, because that's going to be very present of mind to them. Ages 13 through 18, 10 p.m. is probably when you're going to get the most out of your teen wolf, if you will. Trying to get them to talk any other time is usually pretty useless. I'll tell you a funny story about my daughter. So it was my job in the house to wake the kids up because, quite honestly, it's not the most fun thing in the world to do. During their teenage years, this can become a heck of a challenge. And so I would walk into my daughter's room and I'd say, "Good morning, how you doing? Hey, what have you got on the plate today?" Just to try to engage her and get her going. I would get leave me alone, Dad. That would be about the most I would probably get out of her, right? Then I could go into her room and actually at about 9:00 at night, if I asked her the exact same question, I get about 90 minutes of conversation with my teenage daughter. I don't know if any of you out there have tried to have 90-minute conversations with your teenager, but 9 times out of 10, they have no interest. So finding the time when you can connect with them turns out to be incredibly, incredibly important. So as I said at the beginning, understanding your chronotype can make a big difference in your levels of productivity, the quality of your sleep, but it can also increase your relationship with some of the people that are most important in your life, likely your kids. In fact, I put together a video about how all of your chronotypes can help you establish great bedtime routines. So do me a favor, check that out right here. And remember, kids benefit from stable routines that they can rely on, but they're also rapidly changing as they develop. So stay in conversation with your child, observe how they respond to this daily stimuli, and be open to adjusting because they're going to grow. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet dreams.